So this is a demonstration of the status of the level editor. I spent the last few days working on a couple features. Um, I am about, I'm pretty close to getting done with the core features of the engine. So it's exciting because I can start making real levels now. But I wanted to show some of the things that I added recently to make that possible. I had some inefficiencies in the level editor, and I spent a couple days fixing those. So here we go. Um, So this is the view you get when you start up a new level. It's 10 by 10, it's not really practical. So let's increase that to 20 by 20. And one of the big things that I added recently was the ability to do bulk selections and bulk modifications. So if I wanted to change the entire level to have a certain floor texture, I could do that in one swoop. But before I do that, let me show you how the palette works. So there used to be a palette over on the right here, but I moved that to a shortcut key because didn't need to be on the screen the whole time. So first I'll select a layer. Let's do ground 2. That's my default middle ground layer. And we'll click on a tile, hit V, and you can see the palette that pops up. So let's go to the palette and pick this ground tile. And it used to be that I had to hold control down and draw like this, but that's usually took a long time if there was a lot to fill in. So let's get rid of that and show the new way to do it. If I hold shift down, I can do a bulk tile selection. And then I can do the same thing, and they're all filled. Let's make that a little bit bigger. So another thing that I did was let me start filling in one of the edges here. So we have these edge tiles. Just gonna fill those in. You can rotate using A and S. Zoom in with the mouse wheel. Drag those down. Create another layer here. Copy and paste. All right, so now I have this corner, whoops, this corner section done. If I want to set the models of the wall, I can just hit, there's a shortcut key to key in certain models. This is a solid model. So now I don't want to build this for all four of them. So what I can do is if I have a square selection, I can do the bulk tile select. So this is looks like for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, a 9 by 9 selection. It has to be square for this to work. Oh, well, first let's copy it. So I can Control C. We're going to put it right here, paste. So we can do bulk copy and paste. We can also do bulk rotate, which is kind of interesting. I'm hitting A and S to rotate this back and forth. But what you'll notice, which is kind of interesting, is that the floor tiles themselves don't rotate. So if I were to, let's say I add a new layer here, and I make it this torch that's lit. If I were to rotate this section right here, you wouldn't really want these to rotate with it. Nor would you want I'm putting the torches there because the floor is a little harder to see, but the floor also doesn't rotate. And that's because I've specified extra data on certain tiles to tell whether they should rotate with bulk selections or not. So you can see in the asset editor, if I go to textures, palace, let's find that exact one I was using. Right, so here's one of them right here. So you get selected in the texture atlas. This right here is the configuration. These it's like the orientation configuration, and things that are not to be rotated should be in center orientation. I haven't done foot horizontal and foot vertical yet, but the same principles will apply when I do that. So let's go back. So now let's actually copy this. Here, let's get rid of those. We don't need those here. copy, paste, rotate, paste, rotate twice, and we have a complete room. And that was pretty fast to do. Let's fill this. Let's go to ground ceiling 1. Fill these other tiles with the ceiling texture. Note that I don't have additive and subtractive selection yet. I don't know if I'm going to bother with that. It doesn't seems like it'll be useful, but maybe not worth the effort. So we'll save this and we'll run it. And there's no player because I haven't added a player spawn, so I'll show how that works in a second. So we'll go ahead and add an entity here. Now these are the free floating entities. These are not like tiles. They are, you know, you can freely rotate them and move them and size them in any size you want. They're not fixed to the grid at all. So we'll put an entity here. We'll hit C to bring up the properties and choose a behavior. Player spawn is the behavior that spawns a player. We have a nice little configured graphic to show that it is that. And now we have a player that can run around. Alright. Now I've also implemented bulk copy and paste for entities as well. And if you haven't seen how the entity editor works with properties, that's kind of cool as well. So let's make some blobs, because it's the only real enemy I have right now. We get into more of those pretty soon. I can hit Control D to duplicate. Note that I've turned off collision against the blobs for demo purposes because it's annoying to play around with this and get hit all the time. Alright, so those work. We can, holding down Alt, we can do a bulk selection of entities instead of tiles. We can duplicate them, we can use the arrow keys to move them around, we can delete them in bulk too. So I can also select them, copy, and just paste in various locations by moving my mouse and hitting Control V. We can save and run. Oops, sorry. Alright, let's delete those. And I'll just show up the properties real quick and then we'll end the video. So one of the things we can do is pick a blob, and there's defined properties in code that are automatically reflected on and shown in this editor. Now this one's not very complicated. There's one Boolean property for a blob to indicate whether it's hidden or not. So we can check that. Create a few. Okay, now they're in hidden mode. Pretty easy. There's some more interesting properties for other entity types, like, for example, ambient light. So ambient light has to have a color. We'll use the color picker. We'll pick a nice, you know, white is the default, so anything that's not white is going to be darker. So that's really dark, but whatever. Same with point lights, so we'll select the behavior point light here. Where'd it go? We'll pick a white color, give it a certain size, and it should be right there. And now we can see a light in the middle. So that's how properties work. That's how the new features in the level editor work. Hopefully this will help me quickly design levels, not use much time doing tedious stuff. And I think that's it. Thanks.